Virginia Department of Corrections, Red Onion State Prison.
To accept this call, press 0.
This is Randall Via, and I'm currently serving 1,214 years in Red Onion State Prison in the state of Virginia, United States of America. And this is my podcast, Red Onion Randy. I've gotten a lot of questions and inquiries about visitation. So today, that's what I'm going to discuss. Now, for me, since I've been in prison, I've never had a visit. So I can't really speak on it from a personal standpoint, but I've been in prison for 30 years. As a matter of fact, March 31st of this year marked 23 years to the day that I was in prison, which is, I'm only a couple of days after that. 30 years, 23 an adult, 7 in juvenile, and I never had a visit. Mostly because I really don't want one. My brother Linwood has offered me numerous times to come visit me here at Red Onion, but I always tell him, no, man, save your money, because it's a 6-hour drive from where he lives to where I'm at, and then it's a 6-hour drive back. And because of the prison I'm in and the pod that I'm in, I don't get a contact visit. I would have to sit between a plate glass window and talk on the phone, as you see in many movies and television shows when they show the visitation room. And we would only get 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how many other people are getting visits at the same time. Because if there's a lot of them, your time is going to get cut short. So he would have to spend all that money in gas and then food, and then knowing him, he's more than likely going to get a hotel room and stay overnight just to talk to me on the phone through glass. Now, I want visits. I would love to have visits, just not here at Red Onion. If I was at Lowland somewhere, honestly, I really wouldn't care if he did have to drive 6 hours. I mean, that would still suck for him, but my desire to see him and to give him a hug and, sit across from him and talk to him and, have that more of an intimate conversation with him, face to face. I can see his body expressions, his body cues and, facial expressions and whatnot. That would be a beautiful thing, because it's been so long since I've seen him, except in pictures. And like me, he's highly uncomfortable when he takes pictures. That's why we always look like we got a stick up our ass. We hate having our pictures taken. So when I see him in a picture, it just doesn't have that same authenticity that I remember of him being him. It's not the same. So I would love to see him. I would love to get visits from him and others, and pretty much anybody who would want to come visit me on the weekend. That would be great. If I can sit down at a table with them, if I can give them a hug, if I could just have some kind of touch, some kind of feel to just know that, hey, this person is truly real. This ain't just some figment of my imagination. I haven't lost my damn mind and gone crazy, and my need for someone, to touch someone, to feel someone, it's real. It's not fake. It's not a lie. It's not mist on the wind. That would be a lovely thing. But unfortunately, I'm at Red Onion, and because I'm still a level 6, I can't get that. So I've told him, don't waste your time. And I've had a couple of other people who have volunteered, some friends that I had made that really wanted to come visit me, and I told them the same thing. And I don't want you to waste your money to come up here and have to speak to me through a glass. We can't touch, we can't connect. I already know they're going to leave feeling so disappointed. And I'm going to feel disappointed. I mean, that's going to hurt me to see them walking out, because I know my brother would bring my nephew. And I've never seen my nephew in real life. I've never given him a hug. I've never ruffled his hair. I haven't been able to do that. So if I come back to the cell not having given him a hug, I'm probably going to whoop someone's ass. I wouldn't mean to. I wouldn't want to, but I would be so downhearted and depressed and angry at these people and the stupid-ass rules that they constantly make to deny a human being a hug from his own nephew, from his own brother, from his own mother or sister or wife because he's a level 6? Man, who gives a what level I am? You're telling me I can't hug my family when they just spent a couple $100 to drive all the way up here to this redneck-ass town to come to this prison, and I can't get a hug? And someone would say something stupid and not realizing what I'm going through, not having no idea because I have my stone face on. And inside, I'm boiling, I'm angry, I'm tore up, I'm hurt. And they just say the wrong thing, and it triggers something in you. And that's a very, very great danger in prison. And that's one of the reasons most fights and most stabbings and violence happens in prisons. Because someone says the wrong thing at the wrong time, because most of us have our stone faces on and we cannot read what the other person's emotional turmoil is inside. They're like a duck on water. Yeah, up top they're calm and serene and graceful, but underneath, man, them damn little legs are paddling as hard as they can. And if you can't see that, you don't know what's going on. So that's one of the reasons why I always tell my brother every time he brings it up, which is a lot. Nah, dude, I'm good, man. I appreciate it, but that wouldn't be good for no one. The visiting room, as I said, I've never had a visit. I haven't been over there. But I've known a lot of guys who have been over there. I've known COs who have worked the visitation room. I have heard the stories. And let me tell you something. Depending on the prison, them visitation rooms can get pretty damn wild. There are guys, they always try to get their girl to be kind of the first ones there. Because when their girls come in, you know, they get them to go in that back corner, those tables in the back corner. That way when all the tables fill up, you know, when the CO is on the other side, them and that girl just slip down, lay on the floor. Old boy slides on up in her, puts on a show for everybody who looks, except the CO, hopefully, because you ain't trying to get tore off. That stuff happens. You know what I'm saying? You got, drugs are getting passed, cell phones are getting passed. And there's only one way to get that stuff by the CO because, see, when you go into visitation rooms now, because of the drug issues and, you know, the cell phones and all the contraband and everything, cash money, what have you, when you go in, you go to this room and you take your clothes off and the CO that's working the visitation room gives you state-issued underwear, gives you state-issued socks, state-issued shoes, and a jumpsuit, a bright yellow jumpsuit or a bright blue jumpsuit or what have you. You go into your visitation room while your clothes are stuck in a little thing, and you know, some places give you a number, some places you have to remember where your stuff is, and hopefully nobody steals it. On the way out the visitation room claiming, yeah, that's theirs. But the only way to get drugs in, you know, is for your girl to take them out of her vagina and pass them to you under the nose of the camera and under the nose of the COs that are watching, under, you know, the nose of the investigators and all of that. And then you got to get it, and you got to either get it, you know, somehow go to the bathroom, and then you got to shove it up your ass, which is called keistering, it's called mule, it's called suitcasing. It has a couple of different names depending on where you're at. That's one thing I've never understood. Why in the world would somebody want to do drugs that have literally been in someone's ass? That is one of the most disgusting and nastiest things I can possibly think of. I don't care how many balloons you have it wrapped in. that's just trifling as hell. But guys are so addicted, man, and they don't care. They'll anything to get that next fix, anything to get that next high. The visitation room is wild. You know, you have guys will be in there and they'll see your girl. You know, like they can literally be there talking to their mom or their dad or their brother. And you know what I'm saying? You can be at the next table smashing your girl, and once you're done, dude's like, yo, man, let me get a ride, bro. And next thing you know, dudes are fighting because you done disrespected him by disrespecting his girl. There are some crazy-ass things that go on in that visitation room. And then you have people bringing their kids up there to see their fathers and uncles and stuff like that. And yet, like 2 tables away, you have 2 of them just straight going at it. Yeah, the visitation room is pretty damn wild. It's good because, as I said earlier, you get to touch someone, you get to hug them. You know, I would take everything I have in this life. I would give it up for a hug. I would sell it all. I would trade it all away for a hug. And I wouldn't even care if I knew the person or not. I would prefer it if it was a loved one. I would prefer it if it was a good friend. But, man, I would give up everything I have and go back to having nothing just for a hug from anyone. And that's the thing about the prisons. You know, you have all these lawmakers trying to make all these dumbass rules that make no sense. Saying, oh, well, we're punishing them if we make it harder and harder and crueler and crueler. Well, they'll rehabilitate themselves and they won't want to come back to prison. Bullshit. Look, when you treat someone like an animal, they turn into an animal. You're making them worse. If they would just let us have that contact, they would just bring certain things back that the system used to have, where you can, instead of only spending 1 hour with loved ones, you know, they used to have it to where back in the day where, like, you know, a couple of times throughout the year, they would go on the rec yard. You know what I'm saying? And they would basically kind of do it like a modified lockdown. For those who get visits, they get this particular rec yard. And they, you know, they have inmates out there from the kitchen grilling up hot dogs and hamburgers and potato wedges and all that stuff. And you and your family get to stay out there 5, 6, 7 hours. And they can come back the next day and do it again. You can actually spend a whole lot of time with your family. You can sit there and throw the football with your son, or, you know, you can sit there with your daughter and tell her stories on the grass, chase them around playing tag. That stuff right there. And this is the thing, I guarantee if someone would go back to when that was allowed in prison, and they would just compare the recidivism rates from then when they actually treated prisoners somewhat humanely to now when we're nothing more than just a modern-day slave to make a couple of billionaires even richer because they happen to own private prisons and commissary and whatnot. Check the recidivism rates. And I guarantee you that the recidivism rates today are way higher than they were back when you actually got to do stuff like that with your family. Because stuff like that will soften you. If you can sit there and play with your kids on the rec yard a couple times a year, that's going to make you think. All the stuff you're missing. And then you start to think, man, what if my son is in here one day? What if he follows in my footsteps? And 9 times out of 10, if you're not there to raise your son and to teach him properly, he's going to wind up in prison. Or he's going to wind up living some life that is meaningless and useless to himself and everybody else. So there's a lot that can go on with the visitation room. It can be such a blessing. But at the same time, it has its dark side. Because when you have to leave them and you can't take them back to the cell with you, that's emotionally draining. I mean, it either depresses you to the point where you don't even want to get out to bed and do anything, or it fires you up and it just makes you want to punch someone because you're not with your family no more. And this is the thing, when you're on the street, you can't think about this stuff. You can't think about it because you don't know. Experience is the greatest teacher in life. No one is better than experience to teach you something. And the thing about experience, unfortunately, you have to go through it before you can learn. And you have a lot of guys that are just like me. They made the mistake, and it was one of those mistakes that very few of us have the opportunity to overturn, to right and fix. I'm praying to God that I'm one of them.
You have 1 minute remaining.
We'll see what happens. But for me, I got faith and I believe. My story does not end in prison. That's all I can say. This has been Red Onion Randy. For those of you who listen to me on Apple Podcast, I would truly appreciate if you would be willing to rate me, preferably 5 stars, but whatever you think I'm worth, and just a quick review. And for those of you who have reviewed me and rated me, truly, I appreciate it. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. And don't forget to check out my website, redonionrandy.com. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you for using GTL.